Well, I am Corey Stewart, and I guess this video is about drug addiction. And since I've gone through those waves of, I suppose, being addicted to drugs, um, I like to let there know that there is help out there, and if you feel like you're slipping or and your drug use is becoming out of control, I mean, I don't, I don't know. I don't want to see people in my position where I used to be a couple years ago. Granted that I still use drugs today, but in the past I didn't know how much to use or when and where to use the right time and place. I was kind of ignorant, and I just would use it at school. So what I'm saying is I would suggest people not to use that kind of crap at school, especially the drugs that I was using, deliriants and hallucinogens. Maybe because it's very easy to get caught, and it ain't just a cakewalk or anything. And, I mean, some people consider drug addiction being where you need it every single day. I consider it being where, you can't function properly, or the next day, like, of course, they'll have side effects and etc. But you get to a certain point where you should know if you're addicted to a drug or not. And your brain should send that message right away. You should already know it. Consciously, you should be aware of it. I mean, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, you can be a fucking 15-year-old kid and complain about this and write a comment on it and say, oh, there's no such thing about drug addiction. Well, you know what, there is. There is a strong correlation between drugs and addiction, and it can ruin lives. It really can. And so that's why there's a certain point where when you're becoming addicted to drugs, you my strategy was always to transition over, but that's not always the best strategy, to use to just switch off and take a different medication or etc. A lot of times actually even talking about it can help. Like not group sessions always irritated me, right? I would just get very irritated just because that's the stupidest questions. Well, why would you use this drug? Is it because your parents are upsetting you? And it's like, yeah, that might be the case for some people, but some people are using drugs because, they just want to have that experience in their life. And it's not necessarily that they're having troubled times, you know what I mean? So there's definitely different scenarios and different situations of drug addiction, and different levels of drug addiction as well. I mean, how much you use it, when you use it, how many times a day you use it. I mean, if it's once, it's like, I don't know. I don't really consider that drug addiction. If you're, finding yourself going back to the pill bottle, every like, let's say 15, 20 minutes, or a couple hours, I kind of consider that slightly drug addiction, because I've been there and I've done that, and the best thing to really do is to talk about it, and with your friends and stuff. I mean, you you find the right friends too, not the ones that are gonna be like, oh, you're not addicted, dude, don't worry about it, bro, your life will be fine. You find the right friends who are like, who notice, when you're all fucked up and you're not able to do shit the right way you're supposed to do it, and those are the friends you can talk to about it, and they can like lead you into a little bit of a different path. You might still use drugs, but maybe in a path of more, let's go and take a bike ride, and that's how I got off of a lot of shit. Was hanging out with different friends, and they would say, let's go for a bike ride, or let's take a walk down to the bridge, or always doing something, that's the thing, keep yourself occupied. Like even, I mean, musicians. Like, I'm a musician, and I play guitar, and I sing for Band Tonic Structure, and for We Are the Fallen Ones. And really, it's not about being a musician that'll make you a drug addict. It's about the influence of music as a musician that will influence you to choose your path. My influence, however, became from a Pink Floyd perspective into a Tool transition, which was a trip band, and so I trip with it, and, listen to music. So I guess with musicians and drug use, it is kind of a higher anomaly that you'll find, and it's more, yeah, you'll find it more often, but it's because these musicians, we like to cover up our emotions and, not really show our true self, because a lot of true emotions that musicians have are, a lot of times, it's sorrow and anger, mixed together, and you don't want to see that in vocal form besides music, you know what I mean? So that's why I take drugs, is that to keep myself mellow, or to be able to, just take just that split second to think, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't go and, do this or whatever, I mean, the other day someone tried to start a fight with me, and it was like, well, what should I do? Should I go and hit him, or should I not? Well, I'm taking Klonopin, so I was like, I was mellowed out, and I was like, yeah, no, how about not? I'm done with fighting, and so I guess it really depends on maturity too, When you start using drugs at a young age, your maturity level is down, and you'll try to justify it in a certain way, in certain aspects, and saying, well, it's because of this or because of that, or I just want to use it just because I want to use it. Well, I mean, let's be mature about this and have an actual discussion here. Like, I mean, there is root problems that everybody has in this world, and no matter who you are, you're gonna have problems, right? So you can't just tell me that you're not trying to cover something up. I'll say, yeah, I've tried to cover up a lot of emotions by using drugs, but that's not the main purpose here. The main purpose was that I'm talking about being a musician, and um, the drugs messing with the musician's mind, and lyrics and guitar patterns. Riffs became slidey and crunchy. They weren't they weren't dead on. They weren't on that spot where it was supposed to be. Where it was supposed to have that oomph along with the rest of the band at the same time. Just have a harmonic melody with it. And I mean, I guess some bands can do that, where they can go and drink some beer and go out on stage and do that. But when you're taking other drugs, it's a different story. So if you're a musician and you're using drugs, I would like just to take out of this to think about what kind of drugs you're using, how they're affecting your mentality and your ability to create music, because music is a beautiful thing, and we cannot lose music, and we cannot lose any more people in this world due to drugs, especially musicians like Jimi Hendrix and all them. We can't lose any more famous musicians like that. I've already I've witnessed friends almost dying, and they've had so much creative potential, and it's like, it's like, wow, man, like, it really does actually open up your eyes, and to realize when you come to a near-death experience, um, it's like an awakening, I guess, if you want to call it that, and kind of like kicks you in the head, and you're like, I gotta wake up from this dream. I gotta start living in reality, and at least for a while, at least for enough time to get my creativity back, and because drugs do take away from creativity. I'm not gonna lie on that. There'll be some drugs that will inhibit the creativity and actually flow it, like some hallucinogens do. But after a while, believe me, it does take away. Like Syd Barrett's situation, whereas he in his first singles, Arnold Lane and all that, you could hear the beauty, the melody, the harmony, and then after that you get into the experimental. We all love the experimental music, don't we? But you could tell that it was kind of like dwindling down. His creativity was like just he was forcing it out, and I just really wanted to make this video for any musician who is currently using drugs or to inhibit themselves from more creative potential, just to warn you that it's not always the case, and that drugs can do some messed up things to you, and just be careful, because you know what, somebody could be watching this video and they could be the next Mozart, and I don't want that person, next thing you know, fucking, let's say 3 months later they die, and then all of a sudden there's all these recordings on their computer that they were like a genius mastermind at mixing music, and they had so many songs that sounded beautiful. It's like, you don't want something like that to happen. Nobody does. Nobody. Especially from a creative mind, from a creative mindset that I have right now, that it's just, it's not worthwhile. Just be careful.